Well, welcome back, everyone. All right. So, as Mina was saying, we're talking about expectations in relationships. And, a lot of times we first get into you're meeting someone, you're trying to lay a foundation for a new relationship. You kind of have to stop and ask yourself, am I being reasonable or unreasonable in the things that I expect, right? In the relationship. And what does that look like in those particular situations? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Well, without further ado, let's just get into it.
Yeah.
What are some of the things? What do you want to bring up off of your list, maybe right now of things?
I brought up the magical thinking, and that was really important for me. Is that people sometimes have expectations, and they think because they've got this idea or whatever they're thinking in their head of what they want or expect out of a person, that it's going to magically happen. That's they're going to do it, or they're going to read minds, or you're going to get that, and it's not really giving that person a fair chance, right? But
Hmm.
you expect them to be that way just automatically, and then you're unhappy and you're disappointed because you didn't get that magic that you thought you were going to have, because you think it's just going to happen by osmosis somehow,
By as most right,
because
just
I thought it, I want a
therefore it should
romantic,
happen, right?
it's going to happen.
Right,
He's going to do it. So
right.
that was one of the main things that I wanted to bring up, and you have that disappointment and resentment for them not being what you had in your head that they didn't even know.
Well, I
I
have a
think so.
couple I want to get into here. One is about spending time together from an expectation standpoint, because people have that's a mixed bag. Certain people feel like, okay, you're my significant other, you're my person, so every free possible moment that you have, my expectation is that you spend that time with me. You think that's reasonable?
No, I don't think that's reasonable, but at the same time, I think that it's that's like a field of landmines there.
Because the next one I wanted to get from an expectation standpoint is, where's the romance, right? Because
Yeah.
when a relationship is new, you know, you, as we talked about before, you might bring flowers and you might do these different things which are sweet and romantic. You get, 2 or 3 years in, and it's what was the, I think the one episode I did, and we're talking about opening the car door, and right,
Yeah.
and the guy was like, "Shit, open your own damn car
Stop.
door."
You're done with that, right? Don't start something you can't keep doing.
Exactly.
Right?
So from a romance standpoint, I think it's important that you be conscious of that. And like I said, there
Yeah.
she mentioned, date night and talking it through,
Yeah.
and making sure that that continues to happen. Um,
Hmm.
a balance of the time which we were just talking about, spending time apart, but also making sure that you
Right.
dedicate time together. Right.
So cultivating that relationship,
Right.
good,
Yeah.
better relationships, having that good relationship, thinking about your relationship,
Right.
not just, oh, I need my free time, but work on the relationship as much as you work on the free time, right?
Correct.
But
Absolutely.
the big thing is how you've grown together, your relationship. Have you connected? Have you, over that time? That I think that's going to outweigh everything. How you
Yeah.
feel and how you're connected. I don't think it's going to matter, but I don't know. I don't have an
That,
opinion.
and that's the thing that we said, though, is that's not going to happen
Yeah,
automatically,
that's
right?
intentional, right?
Yeah,
It's
you
intentional.
have to have the conversation, and start to plan and do those things, because can't read your mind, understand what you're thinking. And again,
Mhm.
thinking is one thing, feeling, and we try to stay on that side of the fence a lot, um,
Mhm.
about feeling.
Right.
Because what you're thinking is really, you should try to express it in the terms of
Mhm.
either what you're feeling, how it makes you feel, or
Right.
those types of things. That's really what's going to matter, and helping the other person understand where you're
Yeah.
coming from is expressing in the terms of feelings, right?
Mhm.
So as life goes on and you do start to change, as we all do, we have to be
Mhm.
open to share those different things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, you're right. You're
That's
right
true.
about that, grown folks. Yep,
Yes,
marriage is
grown
for the grown
folks.
folks. I
Yeah,
think that, everything we talk about every time we have a video, it's really about being intentional about whatever the subject is. You really have to think about what it is and make steps towards what you want, what's positive for you, or whatever you're trying to work out, whatever the situation is, it's really being intentional in it. And so growing and coming together in your relationship, if you really want that, it's going to take steps. It
steps.
doesn't just happen. That's what we're
Yep.
talking about, basically.
Yep. Yep. All relationships require work. And I think
Mhm.
that's another expectation that kind of ties back to what we said earlier about it's just going to happen naturally, right?
Yeah.
And it's work at the end of the day. And her comment, Trisha's comment there about it's for grown folks.
Yeah.
Basically, meaning you have to approach it maturely. You have to understand that you have a role in continuing to push it forward, and that role never stops. It's an
Mhm.
ongoing, living, breathing thing that you have to continue to. It's like a plant. You start watering the plant, what's going to happen to it? It's going to
Yeah,
die.
it's gonna
Yeah.
dry up and die like my
Every so
grass.
often, every so often, you got to change the soil, put it
Yeah.
in a bigger pot, right?
Mhm.
Those are all. So if there's that's a great way to compare what it takes to keep a relationship blossoming and growing and getting stronger.
Yep.
Uh, but the thing is, from an expectation standpoint, what is your mindset about putting in that work? Because if you approach it from like it's just going to happen, and as long as I show up every day, it's kind of like going to work and clocking in and saying, "I'm just going to sit here. I don't have to do anything. I'm here. I've done
Mhm.
my duty by just showing up." Right?
Yeah,
It,
I'm
it doesn't work.
everything. I'm the queen. Shoot, they got everything in me. I'm here. I just gotta be me, and they should be happy. What else I gotta do? I'm
Right.
here,
I'm
right?
here. Right?
You should be
No,
happy, right?
you you should be satisfied. You should be happy.
Right.
That's all it takes.
What else
No,
you expect? I'm here. Oh,
no, doesn't.
you want me to cook a dinner? Oh no, I don't cook anymore. What?
What? Yeah. I want you to
Yeah.
take me to dinner, right?
What?
Is
No,
kind of what
no,
your
no,
mindset would
no.
be.
Yeah,
However,
exactly. Take me to dinner. What else? You want physical? Oh, okay. Is it your birthday?
it's your birthday. What? Only birthday sex? See, that's what I'm talking about.
Only
That's what's.
birthdays and some holidays. I'm just playing.
I know. I know you. You are playing on the right side though, because that is what happens. That is
Yeah,
exactly what happens when we get into.
yeah.
Um,
Like, people get in relationships and shut down in that area. Like, how do you started out, you were doing something at least once a week. How you get in a relationship and you just stop? Like, I'm done. Child, you're not getting none. No, what? You want what?
right.
No, no, I don't feel like I'm tired. I mean, we have work, we have kids, we have things that just keep us going that we're just so tired, but you still got to remember your partner. You can't just
You're
leave them hanging out there, because if you leave
right.
them hanging out there and you don't do something, somebody else will come along and try to take care of them. It will
Right.
happen.
Right.
So
And then
that's
you're
it.
pointing the finger the opposite direction at that point, right?
Yeah,
You know.
not
Um,
even thinking that you shut down and you're not
right.
even trying to keep it going. Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
No, you're 1,000% correct.
We didn't even plan
Because
on talking about that.
no, it is part of expectation though,
Yeah,
because
it is.
if you're sitting there and you're thinking that you're not fulfilling your partner's needs like you used to,
Mhm.
and again, as we said, things change, but still, there's to keep that relationship fresh so it doesn't get stale. You still need to have because the piece that obviously a good sex life brings in is that emotional bond, right?
Mhm.
And if that starts to go south, that starts to bring about challenges in any relationship, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not having that emotional connection anymore. You're
Mhm.
misaligned. So I think it's important that you realize, and then as you just said, and whether it's the man or the woman, if you're not giving them what they need emotionally, and somebody else starts to feed that emotion for them, now you got a problem, right? Now
Yeah.
you have a real problem.
Starts
So
for a woman, it starts off in the head.
always. Always,
Mhm.
always, always.
Doesn't have to
No,
be physical, but it can get there
it can get there,
if
right?
you're not feeding them.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So it's important that you take that initiative, continue to water the plant, as I said earlier, so it can continue to grow. And every now and then, like you said, you got to change the soil and put it in a bigger pot. You know, whatever you got to do because it needs attention, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. Now, another piece I want to bring into talking about expectations is disagreements, arguments, those
Mm,
kind of things. Because some people take the position that if you are having arguments with someone, that it's a bad relationship.
yeah.
And I don't think that that's necessarily true because disagreements are going to happen. You have
Mm,
two people who, especially if they're strong willed individuals, who are trying to figure out a way to cohabitate, coexist, build a
right.
life together. You're not always going to see eye to eye. And that's going to be a natural part of it. And even going back to her comment about, basically marriage is for grown folks. Um,
That's right,
that's
Trish.
part of it, you know? Um, you have to look at that and say, we disagree. Now, here's a question that I want to throw on top of that. If we are in a situation where you feel strongly about X, and it could be the man or the woman, doesn't matter. Do you feel or do you have the expectation that whatever stance you've taken on whatever the subject is, that your significant other should have your back and take that same stance? Or do they have the
Ooh,
freedom to disagree with you?
just not in public.
Just not in public.
Yeah,
So clarify that. What do you mean?
they can disagree, just not in public.
So in public, they should always have your back and be on your
Yeah.
side
Hmm.
or say
When we come
nothing.
home, we can
Or
disagree.
do they have to say something or can they just go,
No, just
I disagree, but so I'm just not going
yeah.
to say anything? Or do they need to say, yeah, baby, you're right. I got your back on
No,
that.
no, 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 no. Just don't say anything. Just don't say anything. Just hold it. You don't have to go against your beliefs and be all like, "Yeah, she's right. Yeah, yeah." No, just I'm a step out of this conversation. It isn't for me. And when you get home, baby, I don't agree with you on that. And you can go at it all day long at home and not
Right,
agree and come to
right.
agreement that you don't agree. But in public, don't. We a team. We're together. We always
Yeah,
together. We're always
right.
together. At home, we
Yep,
disagree.
yep, yep.
Yes,
And Trish
yes,
agrees with
Trish.
you
Thank
100%. So
you,
you got to vote.
Trish.
You got one vote. I disagree with both of you, but that's a whole
Yeah,
nother story. No,
because you got that's you. You have to
I
do that.
know.
If you're
I have
not
to
doing
disagree,
that,
right?
you're not you.
No, actually, I do agree. I agree
Oh, you
actually that in
do.
public, if it's your significant other, you are a team. You are a unit.
Yeah,
You should show a unified front
yeah,
in public. And if there is going to be a disagreement, take it behind closed doors,
yeah.
right? But how many times have you seen that happen in other relationships in
Yeah.
public where they get into those
I've
types
seen
of
that
things, right?
happen. I've seen that happen. A
Yeah,
man gotta be not always, but I'm thinking about a specific man, and he's
right,
putting his chest out, and he's got and he disagreeing with her all out in front of everybody, and it's like you guys could have talked about that at home. You don't have to do that, and then
right.
bringing her along with him, like, oh, and she's embarrassed. No,
So then another thing I want to bring on, I was talking to a good friend of mine last weekend. We were having a couple of beers and just catching up. We hadn't sat for a while. And one of the things he had brought up was he had been kind of going through some counseling because he was having some challenges with one of the relationships he was in. And the counselor basically said this to him, right? And the counselor said, listen, do you want to be right or do you want to be single? And it's like, okay, well, I got it, right? Because that happens a lot. We dig in, right?
yeah.
And from an
Mhm.
expectation standpoint or whatever it is, and it's like, oh, I have to be right about this. But being always being right is not
Yeah.
right, if you know what I
No,
mean. It's
Yeah.
not the right
Yeah.
thing to do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You,
Smart
you
counselor.
have to be willing to, and I know, Mina, you say it all the time, pick your battles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some things aren't worth fighting over.
Right.
Let them have
But,
it.
but, and then we talked about compromise once
Hmm.
before.
Hmm.
And in one of our videos, might need to do a separate one just on compromise.
Right.
Because the thing we got into in that discussion was the ability or the willingness to truly compromise, meaning put it
Woo!
down and let it go, right?
Yeah, you're gonna keep bringing it up, right?
Because you sit here right now and you say, okay, well, I don't need to be right on this one thing, and so you say I let it go. But
Yeah.
are you letting it go, or is it that 2 days later at dinner, you throw that jab punch about it, and then 3 days after that, and just before you go to bed, you throw another jab punch about it, which means you really haven't let it go. You're still hanging on to it, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. As she's saying here, you're right, but got to be grown about it. If you're gonna let it go, let it go, right?
Guilty.
So that should be the expectation that you have, is to say, all right, I don't need to be right always. This is a
Yeah.
battle that I can put down and let go, right?
Or it could be something you gave in on and said, we're just gonna compromise. I'm gonna let this go. And you didn't really want to, but you did it. And you just weren't ready to let that go.
Yeah,
Right. So it's gonna keep coming back because you
okay,
weren't ready. You
yeah,
couldn't.
yeah,
You didn't have the ability to at that point.
yep. I agree. I
Maybe it
agree.
cut really deep, whatever you were dealing with.
So I'm gonna flip this over to something that's gonna be a little bit funny for everybody out there as we go through it. We did an episode a couple of weeks back talking about flirting, and is
Oh
flirting
yeah.
and using sexual innuendo cheating in a relationship. So it's a very good video. So I want to kind of go back to that from an expectation standpoint. Okay. Obviously, you're in a relationship. You have this expectation that the other person is going to be loyal to you, which is a reasonable expectation. There's nothing unreasonable about that. So you're walking down the street, and it could be guy or girl, it doesn't matter. And this a very attractive guy or girl passes you, walk in the opposite direction. And your expectation is that your significant other didn't notice, right? That in your mind, that's what you're saying. However, you have to look at it from this standpoint. If you noticed, trust me, they noticed, right? Because you've already processed in your mind, oh, he better not turn his head and look. So that means you saw it already. So how is it that the expectation would be you would notice, and it's the person of the same sex, right? But they don't notice, right? Is that reasonable?
No. You
No,
thought I was
I
gonna
know
say
you
yeah.
struggle with. I know you struggle with that one because it is that's a challenging one, right? But
Yeah.
you know,
It's a
um,
good way to look at it though.
it is,
Yeah.
it is, right? Because
But
it's
he
like
bet not.
so. Trisha is not at all. All
We
right,
better
so
find a way not to flip his head around. Talk to me. Turn around, look at me, and say, "Honey, what did you do yesterday?" Something. You better find a way. Don't you. I'm walking next to you. Don't do it.
and then I want to go back one more time to one
Okay.
of the videos that we did recently, where
Mhm.
basically we were talking about, I think, the whole flirting thing too. And it's like, hey, I'm not dead, right? I mean, if I see we're human beings, it's human nature. We see another attractive person, not that we have to, break our necks and fall off the curb trying to look at the person, but we are going to notice that because that's human nature, right? Uh,
Yeah.
Men are attracted to women, women are attracted to men, and if it's the other way around, where it's men to men or woman to woman,
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that either. Whatever
Right.
your attraction is, if you
Yeah.
see someone that you go, wow, that person looks really, really good, right?
Yeah.
Human nature. Nothing we can do about that. But tying it back to expectation, I think the key is that it's hard for us to come into and open our minds to say, all right, I can't have the expectation that they're walking around with blinders on like
Oh,
this
yeah.
and going, you know,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
that's an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah.
I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
But they
mm.
gonna do it.
But don't do it.
They gonna distract themselves somehow. Not with me walking next to them.
Don't do it. Mina still says don't do it. All right, fair enough.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. We often make the mistake, and I
Yeah.
say we on both sides of the fence, of
Mhm.
thinking we can change them,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so we'll go into it going, okay, well, they got this and they got that, and that's okay,
Yeah.
but this is kind of an issue for me. But you know what? Over time, I'm gonna fix that. I'm gonna change them, right?
Yeah. Or even not even like it's not a conscious I'm gonna change them, but it's gonna change. It's not
Okay,
like I can
okay,
change
okay.
it, but
Yeah,
we're gonna work on it. It's
right,
gonna change, right? Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Because everybody knows that you can't change somebody, right? Everybody knows that, but at the same time, they want to change the situation. They want to change what's going on. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right, right. No, I,
Or someone could be hiding, not intentionally or intentionally, that part of them, and you don't know it's there. You don't get to see it. You don't have an idea that it's there, and you get to know them even better. And oh, lo and behold, this is not okay for me.
so let's talk about some old school relationship facts from the standpoint of, I mean, obviously we live in a different time today, and you go
Mhm.
back decades, and the standard was,
Yeah.
no sex before marriage. You definitely didn't live together before you got married. All those
I
kinds of
still did
things, right?
sex before marriage, though. But go ahead.
So, and going, this goes back to Trisha's point.
Yeah.
If you are still an old school believer in some of those things, there's a lot you might not know about a
Right.
person
Right.
when you quote unquote jump the broom, as we
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
If you haven't really spent that much
Mhm.
time
You're
in
right.
that way with the person, right? Now,
Mhm.
today things have changed, and we're much
Mhm.
more fluid and open with
Right.
relationships. The stigma of sex before marriage and all these different kinds of things are not like it used to be. But
Mhm.
still, those things can play into it. And then going back to what you just said, Mina,
Mhm.
is there some covert stuff that's happening from
Oh,
one side of the
yeah.
fence to the other? The person's withholding,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
and then that brings the next question up: what is the intent behind that? Trish says you've got to have sex
You're right.
before marriage. That's the comment that's on here right now.
You are so right.
So the test drive is what I'm going to call that.
We are not cars.
Sure we are. Kick the tires, slam the door,
Oh, my Lord.
look under the hood.
You look under the hood.
Anyway,
But you still might not, even after you do all that, you might not catch everything. You know? There might be some other things you don't see, don't know, and you don't find out till way later.
so the complete freak comes out later. That's what you're saying.
It ain't even, I'm not even talking about sex. There's other stuff. I mean, there's sex, and then there's other stuff, that you don't know till later. Like things
Okay,
that they don't may not even know about themselves.
it is going to be a learning because
Mhm,
I guess that's the point it's good you said that because
mhm.
the two of you are joining into a union that's never been together before. So whatever your
Right.
personality traits, whatever your characteristics are, what you're going to bring some things out in them they didn't know that they had. They're going to bring some things out in you didn't know you had, because now
Mhm,
there's this new union of attitudes and morals and values and personality traits and
mhm.
characteristics, and each one is a one-off, right? That one
Right.
relationship is a unique relationship. So you're right, there's going to
Mm,
be some growth dynamics and some change that's going to happen just because the two people are now together every
mm.
day. right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like when you get off work, where are you going? Home. Who's at home? Your significant other, right? What are your final thoughts before we wrap up and get out of here today?
Well, I would say have expectations, but communicate about them with your partner.
Hmm.
That magical thinking, it doesn't help. So communicate about whatever's going on and see if you can get them met. But give them that space to either agree or disagree. Don't expect them to just always come to your side.
Hmm. Hmm.
Except when you're walking down the street and there's a woman walking by, pretty woman walking by. Don't look.
Sorry. We obviously know that for Mina, that's a sore spot. So don't do that. She might push you out in front of a moving car. All right.
Thank you.
One of the last things that I want to say as we wrap up is, and it's just a summary of it takes work. It's work. It's a work in progress, and I think that's where people get lost in a lot of their relationship connections over time. Uh, is they get into a comfort zone, they settle into this space and place of, all right, well, wash, rinse, repeat, same thing day in, day out, right? Not thinking that, the best thing to do is to try to liven it up here or there, do something fresh, do something different, find some new common interests, those kinds of things, because that's going to continue to keep the relationship healthy. Um, so you can keep moving forward, keep growing as a couple, and all of that. So that's the last thing I just wanted to share is don't stop working. Just keep
Yes.
keep working, keep working.
Intentional. Be intentional.
Be intentional and be in the moment too,
Mm.
as we talked about. Stay engaged, be in the moment, because that emotional bridge of all of the things, the mental, the physical, the emotional, that emotional bridge is actually the most important one. And that's the one you need to stand up the most, because that's the one over time that's going to keep you guys in sync and together. So focus on keeping that emotional bridge strong. She said, if you found value in this, please like it. Absolutely share if you know other people, friends, family, etc., who would benefit from taking a listen to this. Please do that, and then subscribe. As she said, get over to
Yeah.
YouTube and subscribe. Much aloha to
And
everybody. Take care, Mina. To everybody, bye.
aloha.
Take care. We'll talk to everyone soon.